So it was an African-American mayor who not only represented the ideas of African-American empowerment, but more importantly, the kind of idealism which must have been attractive to a young Obama.
Chicago was the most exciting thing going on at the time.
I loved Harold Washington. I mean, he was such a larger-than-life figure.
But Harold Washington was faced with many challenges.
The 1970s were devastating for Chicago economically. You had not only the loss of hundreds of thousands of jobs in heavy industries, the steel mills and the railroads and meatpacking, but you had white flight on a massive scale. Tens of thousands of whites simply abandoned the city of Chicago for the suburbs.
With unemployment, all problems go up. Violent crime and gangs and drugs.
People began to spend more time inside. The boarded up homes, the decaying storefronts, kids from unknown families who swaggered down the streets, all of it whispered painful truths.
Obama moved into a small apartment in Hyde Park on Chicago's South Side. As Obama met the residents, he found that many were single mothers.
They were spirited, good-humored women, women who, without husbands to help, somehow managed to raise sons and daughters, juggle an assortment of part-time jobs and small business schemes, and organize Girl Scout troops, fashion shows, and summer camps for the parade of children that wandered through the church every day.
We were at St. Helena's of the Cross Church in a conference room, and Jerry Kellman brought in Barack. The first impression was basically, he is really young. He was, 23, 24 years old. It was an unusual thing for someone his age to be that concerned about other people.
We had a Tuesday organizers meeting, and we would talk about the different issues that we were working on.
He began to listen for commonality. What was it that tied people together? They often disagreed, they maybe even disliked one another, but his job was to mold them into a group that could begin to speak with a common voice in their own behalf.
He helped us identify the problems, help us turn those problems into issues which were then doable, solvable.
He invited me to come work with him at Developing Communities Project. And we did site visits to some of the parks. And while we were looking at a playground that had some glass in the sand lot and that sort of stuff, all of a sudden we heard these gunshots go off, and we sort of ducked down, because, they were sounding pretty close.
Johnny dropped flat onto a small plot of grass, and I quickly followed suit and watched a young man appear from around the corner. A few seconds later, two more boys came around the same corner. One of them was waving a small pistol. Without stopping to aim, he let out 3 quick shots in the direction of the first boy. Then, realizing that his target was out of range, he slowed to a walk, and the two of them laughed to each other before continuing down the street. Children again.
We looked at each other, and it was like the realization, here you are at a playground where children play, and here gunshots are going off. It just was one of those things, wow, this just isn't right. That just underscored the need for change.
And I guess, in part, I identify with these young men, and suddenly, I get sort of an epiphany and see that nobody's tending to them.
One of the main issues was public safety, gangs. Our church was frequently vandalized. We had a lot of graffiti on the walls. People would break in, they would take the PA systems. Of course, there was unemployment in the neighborhood, and then dealing with drug abuse.
To confront these other serious problems, it was necessary that Obama engage the help of ministers from the black churches.
Barack was very young, and a lot of the ministers were much older and had been established in the community for many, many years.
At his first meeting with the group, Obama was stating his goals when he was interrupted by one of the ministers.
Listen, what's your name again? Obama? The last thing we need is to join up with a bunch of white money and Catholic churches and Jewish organizers to solve our problems. They're not interested in us. Shoot, the archdiocese in this city is run by stone-cold racists. White folks coming in here think that they know what's best for us, hiring a bunch of high-talking, college-educated brothers like yourself who don't know no better, and all they want to do is take over. Right now, you're on the wrong side of the battle.
Now, when that meeting began to deteriorate, and it really did, Barack, he let the guy that basically was the Judas in the group, he let him leave. And then Barack, he said, let's not go out of here yet. Let's spend 10 minutes rehashing what just went wrong to make sure that the next time we meet, we don't make the same mistakes. From that moment, we began talking about what went well, who was good at doing what. And so we started a process of always evaluating what we had done in that meeting before that meeting closed. And when we planned the next meeting, of course, it went much better. The other guy was not invited.